Friends, do you know that one of the largest oil platforms in the world is so tall that it looks like a 16-story building, and so wide that 2 football fields could fit side by side? It's called Appomattox, and it weighs even more than an aircraft carrier. Right now, it stands tall in the Gulf of Mexico, 134 kilometers off the coast of Louisiana, North America. But its journey began thousands of miles away in South Korea, where its story started with thousands of workers and engineers putting in their days and nights to build this unbelievable structure. For 7 years, they worked without rest to complete this mega project, and when it was finally finished, the engineers faced a challenge that they had never experienced before in their careers. They had to move this massive oil platform from South Korea all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. For this mission, they brought in the world's biggest marine transport vessel. But moving this giant onto that ship was no simple task. It would take at least 7 days to carefully lift and load it. Just when they were about to begin, news broke that a super typhoon was forming in the Pacific Ocean. This was not an ordinary storm. This typhoon had turned into a monster with winds spinning at 315 kilometers per hour, and weather experts warned it would hit South Korea within 7 days. Everyone knew that if the typhoon reached the shipyard before the platform was safely moved, the entire project could be destroyed. The management had no time to waste. They had to complete a week's work in just 3 days. Extra teams were called in, and workers gave everything they had, working day and night without stopping. At the same time, the management stayed in contact with meteorologists to track the typhoon's movement, hoping it might change direction. But hope began to fade when the typhoon stayed on course, heading directly towards South Korea. In just 3 days, with unmatched speed and teamwork, the platform was finally prepared and pushed inch by inch onto a floating dock. It weighed more than 143,000 tons more steel than what was used to build the entire Burj Khalifa. After placing it on the dock, tugboats pulled it far from the yard to a loading area, where the marine transport vessel was waiting. This vessel was the largest of its kind, capable of carrying up to 980,000 tons. The Appomattox platform would be taken across the ocean on its back, but there was one final risk. To load the platform, the sea needed to be calm. The process was very complicated. The vessel would first sink by filling its water tanks, then the tugboats would carefully slide the platform onto it. Finally, the water would be pumped out, lifting the platform high onto the vessel. If the sea wasn't perfectly calm, this process could fail, risking both the ship and the platform. With the typhoon now only 48 hours away, time was running out fast. Then came a small ray of hope. The weather department informed them that there would be a short 2-hour window in the early morning when the sea would be calm. That was their only chance. The next morning, just as predicted, the sea was calm. Without wasting a second, the platform was carefully pulled onto the vessel. Everyone held their breath. And then it was done. The Appomattox was safely loaded, just in time, and began its journey across the ocean, leaving the typhoon behind. After months at sea, the platform arrived in Texas, where some final parts were attached. Then it was taken to its final destination, 134 kilometers off the coast of Louisiana. But the work wasn't over yet. The real challenge now was to connect the platform to the oil deep below the ocean floor. Appomattox was floating above water that was 7,400 feet deep. That's so deep, you could stack 3 Burj Khalifas on top of each other and still not reach the bottom. But the oil reserves they were trying to reach were another 1,600 feet below that. No human could go that deep. The water pressure would crush anything. So, engineers use underwater robots called ROVs, remotely operated vehicles. These machines were lowered into the deep ocean by crane and controlled from above like a video game. With high skill and precision, they connected special pipes directly to the oil source, thousands of feet underwater. The connection was a success. Then, the process of transferring these pipes to Appomattox began using a method called riser transfer, involving 4 different ships working together. After all the connections were complete, it was finally time to do what Appomattox was built for. The team gathered, hearts pounding, as the oil pump was switched on. From 30,000 feet deep below the earth, oil began to flow. Everyone watched as the first drops of oil reached the surface. Cheers broke out. Smiles spread across every face. The hard work of 7 years had finally paid off. Today, Appomattox produces 175,000 barrels of oil every single day. That's enough fuel to power over 4 million cars daily. Shell, the company behind this marvel, believes the platform will continue producing oil until the year 2056. So friends, this was the incredible journey of Appomattox from the shipyards of South Korea to the deep waters of the Gulf of Mexico. A story of human brilliance, engineering, teamwork, and the courage to beat nature's deadliest storm. If you like this story, don't forget to share it with others and leave your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next amazing story.